Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Gamble, session 2 of the Gamble. I hope the last week was really great and you had a great discussion. As we're looking at each session, different bad bets that we base our lives on. We don't even realize we're doing it. It's just automatic that we think this way and it sounds right. But actually, as we'll see from Jesus's perspective, really do work against us. I would say not only welcome to the Gamble, I would also say welcome to Vegas. But I'm not there anymore. Honestly, kind of happily out of that for a little bit, out of all the casinos and out of all the crazy. Maybe it's just COVID or something, but I feel like, I don't know, it's just great being out here. I'm in the Hoover Dam area, out in the desert, out in fresh air. I feel like if I'm gonna go back over there, I'm gonna have to buy a hazmat suit or something to just gear up to go back in. But for right now, I am at Hoover Dam. I've never been in this area before. And you know, the Hoover Dam, that's not a word I get to say very much, and so I can say confidently this will be the best Hoover Dam talk I've ever given. Kind of excited about it. But I'm actually not here for the Hoover Dam. I'm here for the bridge behind me, because today we're talking about a choice that all of us have to either be wall builders or bridge builders. And in this polarized world, it's easy to see what choice most people are making as we build walls around ourselves. And maybe we'll be able to uncover our next bad bet, which is this in our culture, that life is too short to spend with people who aren't like me or who are different than me. Because whether we would say that out loud or not, that's essentially what we do, because it's more comfortable to be with people like us, people who think like us. It reinforces our own thinking, it reinforces our own values. It helps us make sense of the world, because in an us and them world, right, it's easy to think somehow we're 100% right and they're 100% wrong, and they can be a little crazy, they can be a little scary, and it can be protective for ourselves and our family too, to be kind of walled around people or just with people who reinforce what we think and who are just like us. But even as I say all that, I'm sure there's also a part of us that realizes, hey, there's something wrong with that. That as our world is becoming increasingly polarized, maybe we're losing something really significant, and maybe that's really not the way we need to be living and the way we need to be thinking. And it raises the question, well, how do we live then in a polarized world? And the good news is, as Jesus followers, we don't really have to guess, because Jesus showed us the way. Because 2,000 years ago, when Jesus was on the planet, his world was way more polarized with way more passion than ours is. In Israel, underneath the Roman Empire, and their political and religious setting was crazy polarized. People did not mix with other groups. Roman citizens with those who weren't, the rich and the poor, this ethnicity and that ethnicity. In Israel, it was Jews didn't interact with Gentiles, all the other races, and religious people were the most segregated, were the most polarized, because they felt like that was the thing to do in order to stay godly, in order to stay pure, in order to stay clean. In fact, like the Pharisees, the religious leaders in Jesus' day, had a word for everybody else, and that was the unclean. People who didn't do their laws and do everything just right. And if you hung out with people who were unclean, they would make you dirty. You would get spiritual cooties. And so the godliest people were the most separated people. And that's what confounded everybody when Jesus showed up, because Jesus didn't live that way. Jesus didn't separate himself out. Jesus didn't live a polarized life. Jesus didn't build protective walls around himself and just hang out with one group of people. Instead, Jesus chose to live in this world as a bridge builder, to connect to those who were very different from him, even all the wrong people. Now, when I talk about being a bridge builder, that's why I'm here with the bridge behind me. And there are iconic bridges in the world I'm sure you're familiar with that are really spectacular. The Sydney Harbor Bridge, the Tower Bridge in London, the Golden Gate Bridge and all that. They're great. This one, not as well known, the Hoover Dam Bypass Bridge, but it is a little bit unique. It's the longest, or the largest concrete arch in the United States. So there you go. You got to come see it just for that. It actually is a really cool bridge. But like any bridge, it's designed to do something specific. It has a function. The function of a bridge is to help us get from here on this side over some otherwise uncrossable chasm to get to the other side, right? It connects us over here with them over there. That's what bridges do. Now, a wall does the opposite, right? A wall divides us and them. Bridges connect us and them. And you and I have the decision in this world which we choose to be, a wall builder or a bridge builder. Jesus chose to live in this world as a bridge builder to those who were very different from him. Again, like I said, to all the wrong people, the prostitute, the tax collector, the untouchables, the uncleans, the Gentiles. There wasn't really anybody that he didn't build bridges to, because that's why he came. Paul talks about in the book of Ephesians, in Ephesians chapter 2, that this is part of what he was up to at the cross. For Christ himself has brought peace to us. He united Jews and Gentiles into one people when in his own body on the cross he broke down the wall of hostility that separated us. He made peace between Jews and Gentiles by creating in himself one new people from the two groups. Together as one body, Christ reconciled both groups to God by means of his death on the cross, and our hostility toward each other was put to death. At the cross, Jesus wasn't just reconciling God to people, but people to people, and tearing down the walls that divided to build a bridge. I love the way Zan Holmes talks about it. If you've been around Chase Oaks a long time, you know Zan, who was a pastor in Dallas for a long time, has spoken at our church from time to time. But he said it this way, that a bridge is simply a wall turned sideways. And what Jesus was doing at the cross is taking all these walls we erect and turning them sideways. And that's what he calls us to be. He calls us to be people who do that, people who live in this world as bridge builders, who move toward those outside of the faith and outside of our circle, even our enemies, like he said, with love, but that we move toward with love and respect and connection. And we, with humility, we listen and we learn in a polarized world. And within the church, within ourselves, that we don't build just a community of sames, but a community of people who are different, a community of difference. In fact, that's what he prayed for in John 17, which is the one time that Jesus prayed for you who would come to believe. He prayed for all of us. This is the one thing he prayed for, that we would have such surprising unity that a watching world would look at us and believe that Jesus indeed is God who came into this world to connect to them. That Jesus' big strategy to convince a skeptical world is you and me resisting the polarization that everybody else is going to be drawn to, and instead building a new kind of community. People from every background, every ethnicity, every kind of struggle, because we're all the same. We're all sinners loved by God who come to him by his grace. And so what does it look like to live in this world as a bridge builder and to resist that tendency we all have to hang with people who are just like us? Let's talk about that as a group. Even maybe how your group can experience that more deeply. How you can help each other live differently in our culture with those outside the faith and with those who are in our church. How do we build a different kind of church? And what are the tensions there? Because there's a lot of tensions. Like, is it ever okay to wall ourselves off, to be protective, to be afraid? And what about that? So have a great conversation. I know it will be, and I know it matters a lot to Jesus because, again, that's the one thing he prayed that we would figure out. And I believe he'll help us figure it out, because this is one thing I know for sure, is that the idea that life is too short to spend with people who are different than me is a really bad bet, because it will lead to a really small life personally, and we'll miss out on the big thing God is up to in our world. So have a great discussion, and we'll see you in the next session.